thanks for being here, Jim. And we were just talking about how unexpected sometimes you see your product, but maybe I'll give you the opportunity to introduce yourself and the company, and then we jump right back to the cameras.
Yeah, thanks, Ilian. So my name's Jim Kernan. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at Luxonis. Sorry for the hoarse voice today, but had some allergies, and I think we can fight through it. Luxonis, we make edge inference, computer vision enabled cameras that basically give perception to robots and automated systems. So we say it's the eyes, ears, and brains of robotics and automated systems, and like truly the differentiator between like our vision system and anything else that you see in the market is that we do all of the processing directly on the device. So you have like a more or less a handheld unit that has a number of different connection types that you're able to gather information from the real world, analyze it onto the camera, and then send the information you want back to your main system to work with.
I think especially in this time where the cloud actually is the main topic, right? It is, I think, especially for people in manufacturing who are a little bit cloud adverse, this is interesting.
Yeah, there are a couple angles where that's actually interesting. Like, here in Europe, obviously GDPR is a thing, and so being able to process the information on the device, you can do things like scrub out PII directly on the device, just blur out a face, blur out a badge, so like that information isn't getting passed. And, so privacy is obviously a focus of ours, and then just from a cost perspective, obviously, people know how expensive GPUs are, and if you take one of our little devices, if you were to stream the data there, like into the cloud, and run continuous inference on that camera, it would cost you tens of thousands of dollars just to run like that camera through the cloud on that 24/7 basis. But it literally costs you. I guess technically there is a price to it, but it costs you nothing to do the inference outside of the power, right? So you'll be talking like dollars or euros, pounds, fractions of that, like negligible costs to be able to run all of that inference, because it's the same as you owning a piece, like you do own the piece of hardware that's running the inference.
Looking at the guests that I had in the last 2 days, we had a few guests with hands, actuators.
Yeah.
We were talking about, humanoid companies, but this is the first time that we're talking with someone who's building a camera. So this is especially for humanoids. For other applications, definitely necessary, right?
Yep.
But how is that for you, the emerging market of humanoids for you as a company?
Yeah, for hand, like as you mentioned, like hands and actuators. We call ourselves the eyes for robots. In a simplistic phase. The humanoid industry is a really interesting one to us. I think it's fascinating. Like just the form factor in itself is really interesting to people. It looks like us, and we're curious about what it's capable of doing. And there's like a certain amount of reflection that you can get back from like looking at something that's supposed to be doing things that you do. So it's just fascinating in that regard. From a business standpoint, I think that we're still very much in its infancy, but I just had a conversation with somebody yesterday, and they were asking like where we thought it would be in like a year or two, and I looked in, and we have a number of companies who buy our products, and some who are buying it like at production levels, but those production levels aren't huge right now, and so
from a volume perspective?
From a volume perspective, and we know that we know where they're at within their production. And like those numbers just aren't super large numbers, and thinking about how that projects out, realistically, it's tough to see anything meaningful in 2025, and then like 2026 even, like just given projections, I can't see it like having this explosion. At the same time, I was like, let me just see like how many phones did Apple sell in their first year. It was like it was 1.3 or 1.7 million phones that they sold in the first year. So who knows? Like once the tipping point hits and the stuff is commercialized. You can see that explosion. Realistically, I think that it's probably going to go through, a stage in like more controlled environments in manufacturing, where because regulation is a whole thing that you can put aside, but like you're going to have a controlled environment, and people are going to be careful in a manufacturing space. They're going to, and they already are doing this, quite frankly. But as soon as you put it out in the wild, into the home, into places where consumers are, that opens up a whole lot of additional problems that I think still need to be solved, so that we don't have some of the negative things that could happen, which would bring bad press and then undue regulation to prevent it from actually growing as quickly as it could.
Today seems to be kind of a topic in between the different kind of chats that I had, but customers and deployment, product development is a big topic, and I don't want to spend too much time on that.
Yeah.
But maybe you can say a bit about how you guys are handling this and how
Yeah,
is it for you.
like a couple of things. Like we try to have as close a relationship with our customers as we possibly can. In a new industry like this, like some people are going to be open and share some things that they're, because they want to learn it along with you, and some people are just going to be closed and say, we just want your product and give it to us. And we're happy to sell it to them because we realize that there is an opportunity in this space, and we want to be as canvassed along it as we possibly can. So that from a deployment perspective, like our sales cycles across any product, and humanoids I would say is even longer. Is people are going through like early like proof of concept. Well, first like R&D and then proof of concept phases, and they're probably evaluating a couple of different options. And even at that point, like when they decided, right, there's probably still like another 6 or 12 months before anything gets greenlit to actually like make it into the hardware revision to get potentially productized. So it's a long cycle. What we generally try to do, like I said, build as close a relationship with our customers as we possibly can, understand their foundational needs, so that we can start to build like like layer in the building blocks that make it easier for them to do their end task. Because like vision is a super complicated thing, on a number of different levels, and realistically, it's probably good for like us to specialize in that, and other people to specialize on the behavioral aspects and how they interact with environments, and how they interact with objects. Like those are all completely nothing that we're going to touch. We'll give you we'll give you some 3D coordinates and some focus, and say here's a glass at XYZ. Go pick it up.
How long are you guys doing what you do?
How long? So we started in 2019. So we just like had our 6-year anniversary at the beginning of April. And yeah, it's been an interesting journey. Like early on, we had a lot of our support from hobbyists and enthusiasts who are in the robotics space, and we had a couple of really successful Kickstarters, and then that whole thing kind of flipped on its head as you move kind of like past the post GPT moment in 2022, where you started to have executives who are looking at like have AI and embedded within their overall process as a business, and then we went from a place where we were 90% consumer to now like 90% business. So
that is a shift.
Yeah, and it wasn't an intentional change of course by any means. It wasn't an intentional pivot. It was just kind of natural. So we had a bunch of people who were in that the hobbyist space, but obviously these people are the ones who are working in the labs, who are the engineers at these spaces. And as soon as it came like from the top down, we're like, we've already been playing with all your stuff and we really, really like it. Like, let's introduce that, and it started to like build the business relationships.
Interesting approach. So 2019, as you said, you were mentioning the ChatGPT moment in 2020, but the other moment was humanoid, right?
Yeah.
So I had a few people talking about this. So this time was just possible because a few things came together.
Yeah.
That weren't possible because things were not together, right?
Yeah.
And so do you think that this... so when you started in 2019 and then a few years in and then you saw this hype, was it still unexpected for you guys, what came and how quickly this developed?
I mean, I would say that, honestly, like, even this conference is interesting to me to see how much is picked up, because I went to another one, like a different humanoid conference, I think it was back in September, and it was just it was different. It was a little bit smaller, and like it seems like there's just like more momentum picking up in the space, and like I'll say like that moment that you're describing, like the wow moment, like I think it's still a step out for me. I want to start to see some of the things that are displayed in demos and presentations. Like I want to see those in person, right, and see those in like less controlled environments. And like when that stuff starts to happen, that's when I'll be like really excited. Yeah, exactly. I'll be excited that like this is getting closer to commercialization, where I think that everyone can obviously see what the commercial opportunities are. That's why everyone's excited. Like outside of the fascination of it being human, it's like, hey, there's all this work that we can do. There's really dangerous jobs that people, like, quite frankly, shouldn't be doing, because we lose lives for people doing work, and that that should be like something that's archaic, right? Like nobody should go to work and think they might die, right? Like there's no reason for that, and so it'll be really, really fascinating to start to see the robots take the place of those jobs. And again, I'll get excited when I see some things like out in the wild a little bit more.
You were mentioning the exhibition that you have been seeing last year in September.
Yeah.
So now we have almost June. There will be a next Humanoids Summit that is happening in December, right? So in December in San Francisco.
Yeah, is it December? I thought it was like September. Okay, we'll be there.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is, so you have been seeing one in September last year.
Yeah.
Now we have almost June, and you can't even say what will happening in like 5 months' time, right?
Yeah.
And so it's this way what kind of momentum we have that you can't even predict within 5 months, right? Because the things are happening so fast.
I mean, I think that like humans in general are really bad at understanding what exponential growth really looks like, because like we don't see, like we see things like moment to moment or day to day, but like we're on this like hyper exponential curve right now with like all the advances that are happening from the hardware components, just from processing to the models themselves that are able to interact with all of the data, and then you're seeing like 10,000x improvements on multiple different planes in very, very short periods of time. So I think it's going to be fascinating. I'm really looking forward to the one in San Francisco, just to see like you'll have more people from the valley there, and I'll be curious to see what people are unveiling.
We know now this Humanoid Summit is happening, but until then you guys do have a roadmap. You guys do have an idea. Yep. Is there anything we should, because this is what I'm asking the guests, I'm curious to know, and anything I should watch out for?
Yeah, so we are like currently launching, we're kind of in early access right now of our next generation of product. It's called Oak 4. And there are a couple of things that we're really, really excited about that I think will like benefit robotics in a large way. From a baseline level, what we're part of the computational process that we're running is we call focused perception.
Okay.
So we have our Oak 4 units are really powerful devices. They have an octa-core like ARM CPU on board, 48 TOPS of processing. Like it's basically a laptop that is designed for visual processing. But with all of that power comes the ability to have like really high fidelity sensors and run like heavier weight models like at the edge at really high rates. And so the focused perception concept is like if you think about your own vision, right? Like we have this peripheral vision that like identifies the things that are around us, and then we have like our foveal vision, which is our focused vision that we address. Like if I want to pick up this cup, I'm going to go reach out, I'm going to pick it up because I can focus on it. Well, like you don't need all the rest of this stuff to have really high computation running on it. You don't need like a huge like high fidelity depth map of everything. You like a robot like needs to have like information about what it cares about. And so what we can do with these cameras, because they're so powerful, is run a really lightweight model up in front that basically does the identification of the things that you're interested in, and then a really heavyweight model behind that, and just say I only care about like this particular glass. Let me run a very high fidelity model around this space and that space only, so you can like process really high fidelity data really, really quickly, because you're processing maybe 5, 10, 15% of the frame as opposed to 100% of the frame.
So in other words, if I can reframe that, my brain does intuitively filtering out all the unnecessary stuff, but a camera doesn't have the ability to. Now you're telling me, actually what we are working on is getting closer to that.
Yeah.
So because that serves us on multiple levels.
Yeah, if you think about like the amount of processing that a humanoid robot has to do to like interact with the world is insane.
Yeah.
And so what we're able to do from the vision perspective is like take all these sensory inputs, which are, call it 4 gigabytes per second of data that we're gathering on our device, and we can spit out bits of information from that. So it's like orders of magnitude different. And so if you are then able to say, like, here's a classification of like an object in 3D coordinates, or like planar information, and that's the stuff that you probably need. You just send back those bits, right, instead of streaming 4 gigabytes per second back to central compute.
And then you do need to process the raw data to only the things that you are necessary for your work.
Yeah, so we call it basically streaming results, not data.
And do you see, because you do have a lot of customers, right? We talked a little bit earlier before this talk, and so not only the volume, but also the different kind of customers you have.
Yeah.
Do you think this is something that they're a bit unexpected that you were able to deliver this, pretty early on?
You know, I hats off to like our founder Brandon. You know, he basically went in and identified this problem in the market with some of the early like entrepreneurial stuff that he did. And so like, you know, early on, it's fun, like we've been at it for 6 years now, and like the timing of it was effectively like just right. You know, he went to solve what was basically a simple problem in trying to prevent or warn bike riders of like oncoming traffic or traffic coming from behind, and like the core component of that was building like a modular vision system. And as he went around and identified all this stuff, like it was really difficult to do for a reason, because it's a hard problem to pack all of that compute, all of the sensors, have it be reliable, all in a small package. And in doing that research and trying to figure out how to build kind of an initial product for a separate use case, it was like, oh my God, there's this whole industry out here where people are you know, there is definitely a need. And so, you know, we think that we're positioned really well to capitalize on what is going to happen in both robotics and automation. Like there's going to be vast amounts of compute that's needed at all levels of the stack, and you know, we think that we're neatly positioned to be able to capture value and provide value for people by doing this edge processing, because you know, again, there's so much data, and like if you start to think about, you know, the series of events, like ultimately all of this stuff is going to have to get streamed back into data centers. Like if you think of training all the robots with all of the information.
And like, also useless information. Right?
Yeah,
that
exactly.
has been transported as well.
Exactly, that's the point, is like if you can cut out a lot of that useless information and really only focus on the stuff that you care about with your training, then like that cleans up the whole stack.
It was interesting insight and a different perspective that all the other guests I had here, and it's refreshing to see that Humanoids Summit brings together the entire stack of what makes robotics so interesting. Yep. So yeah, I'm happy that you said yes and for the short interview, and wish you guys good luck, and see you maybe in December.
Yeah, thanks, I really appreciate it. Thank you.